Today is Friday, August 11th. We have updates about what's turned out to be one of America's deadliest fires in decades in one of the country's most beloved tourist destinations. Also, the Supreme Court put an opioid settlement on hold. What's next for the case involving billions of dollars owed to thousands of people? Plus, we'll break down new data that shows what's getting more and less expensive. We'll tell you how to watch what's expected to be the best meteor shower of the year. And he can't drink or even drive a car, but now a 13-year-old is making history as a pro athlete. Those stories and more in today's episode. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in about 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Lacey Evans, filling in for Erica Mandy today. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Sadly, we have to start today with some unfortunate updates out of Hawaii. The wildfires that have been burning through Maui have now killed at least 53 people. And Governor Josh Green says the death toll will continue to rise as rescuers search homes and other buildings. Entire neighborhoods in the historic town of Lahaina have been reduced to gray ash. More than 1,700 buildings burned down, bringing block after block of just rubble and blacked foundations in the same area that was crowded with tourists just days ago. The fire started earlier this week and was fueled by a dry summer and strong winds from a passing hurricane. And it seemed to take Maui by surprise. Many people are criticizing officials for not ordering evacuations sooner. But for now, officials are mostly focused on search and rescue. Crews haven't been able to reach certain areas at all because they're too dangerous with the ongoing fires. Communications are still spotty on the island too, with 911, landline, and cell service all failing at times. But firefighters have been able to make a lot of progress against the fires as the winds have started to die down. And officials say they're working on getting communication lines open and more shelters set up. Hawaiian Airlines says it's adding extra flights to focus on bringing tourists out of Maui, and people planning to visit in the next few weeks are being asked to reschedule their trips. President Biden declared a major disaster on Maui and promised to streamline requests for assistance. The billionaire Sackler family that owns Purdue Pharma isn't going to be able to put the opioid crisis behind it anytime soon. The Supreme Court blocked a bankruptcy deal this week, at least temporarily, while agreeing to hear a case from the Justice Department. The original deal would have let the company come out of bankruptcy as a different entity with its profits used to fight the opioid epidemic. And the Sackler family would pay as much as $6 billion to thousands of people as settlements for lawsuits. The lawsuits that accuse the Sacklers of helping fuel addictions since they got rich off the sales of the highly addictive prescription painkiller, OxyContin. But the Biden administration wasn't happy with one key part of the bankruptcy deal, the part that shielded the family members from any other current or future lawsuits. It says a deal that comes out of bankruptcy court can't release Purdue's owners from all opioid-related claims, especially when not everyone suing likes the settlement terms. So now, the Supreme Court will be looking into the case that could end up reshaping the role of the bankruptcy system in addressing big issues. Purdue says it's disappointed with the decision, saying it's only going to delay compensation for victims. But a lawyer representing victims of the opioid crisis, who could be in line for a settlement, praised the court for taking up the case so soon. Arguments will be heard in December, and the High Court's final decision is expected before next summer. This week, Iran freed 5 Americans from a notorious prison in Tehran as part of a deal with the U.S. government. They're now on house arrest and should be able to come back to the U.S. in the coming weeks. The White House says the Americans should have never been detained in the first place. But it didn't give much more information about terms of the deal, saying until the prisoners are home, everything is still considered fragile. Iranian news outlets do give more detail, though, saying in return, the U.S. is promising to release 5 Iranian prisoners and billions of dollars in assets that have been frozen because of U.S. sanction laws. Though Secretary of State Antony Blinken made it clear Iran won't be receiving any sanctions relief. And he says any money Iran gets will have to be used for humanitarian purposes. The U.S. and Iran haven't had formal diplomatic ties since 1980, and all official communication between the countries has to go through indirect channels. In this case, the U.S. got help with the negotiations from Oman and Qatar, as well as the United Arab Emirates, Iraq, and Switzerland. Officials say the efforts to free the Americans have been happening along with continuing talks on bringing back an international nuclear pact that puts limits on Iran's nuclear program. But so far, no news on that front. Stay tuned. It looks like the space race is back. For the first time in nearly half a century, Russia launched a spacecraft that's headed to the moon. Russian astronauts are hoping to get a probe to the moon's south polar region, where water ice has attracted a lot of attention from scientists, hoping it might be able to support future moon settlements. If all goes well with the landing in a few days, the moon lander will take soil samples and conduct some long-term scientific research over the next year. Russia is hoping to set the groundwork for future lunar missions, too, and the U.S. isn't going to be too far behind. NASA has plans to send the first people to the moon since 1972 with the Artemis mission in 2025. More news is still coming up, but first, here's your regular host, Erica Mandy, with a word about today's sponsor.
Well, I am so excited to share this next sponsor. It's a small business owned by one of our very own newsworthy listeners, and it's a business that is really helping parents and the environment. It's called BookFlow. It's a new online marketplace for home educators to buy and sell pre-loved curriculum and supplies. It was actually born out of the founders' own struggles and experiences. As home educators themselves, they realized buying all new curriculum is expensive, and finding quality used options can be really difficult. Plus, selling materials at the end of the school year is hit or miss. Enter BookFlow, a marketplace for home educators by home educators. BookFlow is meant to be a thriving community where you can find the homeschool books you need at an affordable price. And when you're done with them, you can resell to another home educator and keep more of your money. It's like the Poshmark of home education curriculum. They tell us it has a greater reach than Facebook Marketplace, is easier to use than eBay, and lets you keep more of your profits than a consignment store. Plus, it's free to sign up. Head over now to bookflowmarket.com to learn more and start making and saving money today. That's bookflowmarket.com.
The Perseid meteor shower peaks this week, and it's expected to be the best cosmic show of the year. It's set to be at its best and brightest tomorrow night. And under clear, dark skies, skywatchers from all over the world can expect to see up to 100 shooting stars an hour, zipping by at 37 miles a second. People in the northern hemisphere are set to have the best view. And this year, the moon isn't even expected to wash it out. NASA says the best time to see the meteor shower is at 3 a.m. local time Sunday morning. But if you don't want to get up quite that early, NASA says you should also be able to see some meteors as early as 10 p.m. tomorrow. Experts say patience is key, though. You'll need to stay outside for at least 15 minutes without technology while your eyes adjust to the darkness. And then, enjoy the show. Virgin Galactic sent its space plane to the edge of the cosmos yesterday on its very first space tourism flight. The passengers included a former British Olympian who actually bought his ticket 18 years ago for $250,000, as well as a health and wellness coach and her daughter who won their seats in a fundraiser drawing. They became the first mother-daughter duo and the first people from Antigua to fly to space together. The space plane took off from Spaceport America in New Mexico. 50 minutes into the flight, the Unity rocket ship separated from the plane, just as planned. They then rocketed straight up to more than 50 miles above the Earth's surface, where the passengers were able to unbuckle and enjoy zero gravity for a little while before safely returning back to Earth. Now that Virgin Galactic has delivered on its first trip, it's setting up the next ones. Now it's going to start offering monthly rides, joining Blue Origin and SpaceX as a leader in the space tourism business. For the first time in more than a year, inflation ticked back up a little bit, but not by that much. New government data shows consumer prices were up 3.2% last month as compared to July of 2022. But that's actually not as much of a hike as was expected. And Wall Street got a boost when the numbers came out. Specifically, the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, shows rent, gas, and some groceries are getting more expensive, but car prices, electronics, and flights are cheaper. Also, service prices are starting to moderate, things like getting your car fixed or going to the dentist. So, economists are hoping this is just the start of a trend that will see costs go down in the coming months, too. A new merger is creating a new American fashion powerhouse. The parent company of Coach, Stuart Weitzman, and Kate Spade is buying the owner of Michael Kors, Jimmy Choo, and Versace for about $8.5 billion in cash. The combined companies will all operate under the name Tapestry. But even then, the merged company won't be as powerful as its European competitors. So Tapestry says a merger helps the American brands compete, even in the face of recent weak sales. Specifically, the CEO says the merger will make it possible to keep up with customers' changing tastes and the ups and downs of the global economy. The boards of both companies have already unanimously approved the merger, and with that, the deal is expected to close next year. A 13-year-old boy just became the youngest professional athlete in the history of American team sports. This week, Davian Kimbrough signed a contract with the Sacramento Republic soccer team. The Republic is in the USL Championship, which is the second tier of U.S. soccer. Kimbrough was apparently a standout in the team's youth development academy, helping his team come in first 2 years in a row. And now he's going to try to do the same thing, competing against adults, all while continuing his studies at a California charter school. He could make his debut with the team as soon as tomorrow. That's it for the main news today, but now it's time for Feel Good Friday, where we bring you one extra feel-good or positive news story before the weekend. Today, we want to share the story of one college athlete who made a selfless choice to help his teammate. Brian Dooley and his teammate Zach Conti are football players at Eastern Michigan University. Conti was working multiple jobs and selling his plasma just to cover his tuition and bills. With so much on his plate, he was thinking about quitting the football team this season. But Dooley didn't want to see Conti give up his passion, so he did something incredibly generous. He worked with his coach to give his full ride scholarship to his teammate, who will now be able to use it for the rest of his undergraduate career as well as for graduate school. Dooley and the coach surprised Conti with a scholarship at a team meeting earlier this month, and the whole team broke out in cheers in a moment that's now gone viral. Eastern Michigan kicks off their football season on September 1st. We'll be back tomorrow with our special edition Saturday episode. We're talking about so-called forever chemicals in America's drinking water. What does the newest data say, and do we really need to worry? Your regular host, Erica Mandy, will have that for you tomorrow. Then Erica will be back again Monday with your next news roundup. For now, thanks for listening and have a great weekend.